Good evening. Thank you for joining me this evening, discussing the topic, harnessing Zambian youths for national development. I would like to welcome you to this edition of Unscripted. I represent CDPD. My name is Dr. Gabriel Pollen. I'm a senior researcher for public finance and development. So Zambia is considered to have a young population with around 65% of the 18 million people under the age of 25. That's what the latest statistics show. And more than half of these are actually below the age of 18. So we have 9.7 million people that are of working age, of which 3.4 million people belong in the labor force. So in today's topic, I'm trying to raise awareness of youth as a demographic dividend that can be used in the labor force in order to accelerate national development and economic growth. So the first thing that I want to point out is the fact that youth constitute a large chunk of the working age population, and therefore, if Zambia is to achieve the targets that it has set out to achieve in terms of national development and economic growth, it's essential that full utilization and efficient utilization of the youth is promoted as an army of workers in technical and innovative job positions. So just to point out that over half, if you look at the distribution of youths in general, over half of the youths live in rural areas, whereas 62.5% of the youths are employed in urban areas. So while in terms of population distribution, we have a situation where the majority of the youth live in rural areas, we also have a situation where in terms of employment, there's a bias towards urban areas. So urban areas tend to provide better opportunities for youths in terms of employment and in terms of how best they're made use of within the economy in order to support national development. Now, in terms of distribution of employment, we see that there are structural and institutional contradictions that determine where youths find opportunities for employment. So the informal sector provides the largest occupation for most of the youth in Zambia, with the formal sector providing the least. So this reflects to a large extent the structural contradictions of the Zambian economy, wherein we have a large informal sector, and this has its roots in the historicity of the country. From the 1990s, after the structural adjustment programs, Zambia underwent massive deindustrialization, which led to informalization of the economy with a policy approach bent towards private sector participation in economic activity. So underpinning that structural transformation of the Zambian economy were also opportunities that were made available for youths to exploit. That is, opportunities in terms of employment for them. Now, in 2015, the youth policy was launched in recognition of the dire situation of youth in terms of their placement as a labor reserve for the Zambian economy. So what this youth policy did was to show strong commitment at the policy level by the government to promote the interests of the youth. And we're also aware that different platforms are created to support different activities for the youth in terms of provision of material resources to help youth to exploit the entrepreneurial talents and capacities. Now, if we look at the statistics related to employment, we find that the majority of the youths do not work in technical jobs. Majority of the youths find employment in low-paying skills, and the reason for that is related to the educational dynamics that present themselves in the country. So there's a very low transition from primary education to secondary education, and worse, from secondary education to tertiary education. So by the time youths are of working age, they lack the requisite skills and resources to be effective participants in the labor market. So how can we harness youth and make better use of them in order to accelerate national development? If 65% of Zambia's working age population is constituted of people below the age 25, then we must recognize that this is a crucial demographic dividend that must be taken advantage of. So with me, I have some recommendations that were set out, and I'm going to read them out in terms of what we can do. And from the recommendations and the structural contradictions that have been pointed out, I'll then invite you guys to participate in this program to hear what you have to say in terms of your contributions for how best the authorities can harness the youths and spur economic growth. So the first point that we pointed out is that there was a need to focus on employment maximizing economic activities, and these are mostly situated in agriculture and industrial and the industrial development. So these are economic activities that maximize the utilization of labor, as well as maximize forward and backward linkages that then can raise living standards and support the kinds of livelihoods that present themselves as decent employments for the youths. So youths first can be used as demographic dividend for labor, but also when they're employed, they can then constitute effective demand, which then can support economic growth more generally. Another point that was raised was that there was need to accelerate industrialization for the country, and in accelerating industrialization, then you're providing the requisite employment for the youths that helps with enhancing productivity of the country. But in addition to enhancing productivity of the country, what you're then saying with enhancement of industrialization is that you also be shielding the country from the vagaries of the external sector by looking inward, looking at the individual capacities and the comparative advantage of the country, building comparative advantage for the country so it can remain competitive and be able to supply to the rest of the world in the form of exports. There is also concerns around skills and education development for the youths. And the argument here is youths are bereft of the requisite skills and talents that can make them effective participants in the labor market, and also are deficient in terms of entrepreneurial capacities that can allow them to create value to society. So from this point of view, there should be sector-specific support for skills and talents that can enhance and make use of the talents of youths, as it were. Another crucial point that was raised out was that at the policy level, despite the launching of the youth policy in 2015, critics have argued that there has been concern in terms of implementation and the lack of accountability. So implementation has been weak in terms of upholding the prescriptions in the youth policy itself, and more importantly, in terms of a lack of accountability, being able to bind the government to the commitments that it sets out, the targets. So who do you hold to account for some of the targets that have been set out and inability for those targets to be met? So there's a need to strengthen the institutional structures and mechanisms to hold accountable authorities for the commitments and targets that they set out to do. An important then socioeconomic discourse is around tolerance of divergent and opposing views. So what the data globally shows is that people normally understand the nature of their problems and are better placed to suggest the solutions that might be relevant to address some of the socioeconomic contradictions that they face. So there is a recommendation that tolerance of opposing views must be encouraged in order to allow germination and proliferation of differing ideas, and then filter these through intellectual and scholarly discourse to establish what would be the requisite policies. So with that point raised in terms of the recommendations set out, I'd like to open the lines right now, and the number to call is 076-425-0055. Please join the discussion. The number to call is 076-425-0055. What are your thoughts concerning the presentation and what your ideas would be in terms of how we can harness youth for national development? So I am opening the phone lines right now. The number to call is 076-425-0055. You're welcome to participate in this program right now. So I think one of the issues that we have to address is that the solutions that are provided are dependent upon the nature of the economy itself in question. The Zambian economy is distorted in terms of the structure of production, dependence upon copper and the low manufacturing sector, and low levels of agricultural productivity. So in what ways do you think youths can be made better use of within the context of these structural contradictions and the institutional barriers that I've pointed out pertaining the implementation of the youth policy? So the number to call is 076-425-0055. Please call 076-4255. I think there's a caller now. Okay, so that line got cut, sorry. You are welcome to call 076-425-0055 to participate in this program. Another crucial issue that is worth considering around harnessing youth for national development is really to recognize that youth are better suited in terms of labor provision. But the question is, what type of activities are the youth most engaged in? What type of activities would we like them to engage in order for them to be able to be effective participants in Zambia's development discourse? So that's the topic of discussion today, harnessing the youth for national development, and the number to call is 076-425-0055. So I'm waiting for you to participate, otherwise then I take this as a monopoly and only my ideas will proliferate. But we would like to encourage debate and discourse around what it is that the youth can do for themselves, what the youth can do for the country. So welcome to participate. You're welcome to participate. Just to point out some of the statistics that we gathered around youth unemployment, we show that the majority of Zambians. All right, we have a call here. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, it is.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, this is Mike from Jakarta.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Yes, the problem with the youth in Zambia to find where to get it's not that every youth is reaching to this most TV.
Okay.
Most of the youth are poor in Zambia. There are very few who have TV sets in their homes. So will you please extend this, or even to tell the media to bring it to the villages, to bring it in the rural areas? Otherwise, nothing will be said. People who benefit will be just people around the level line. But these people from the village, they won't get anything from you.
No, thank you very much for that contribution, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the crucial issue there being raised again relates to the distribution of youths across the country. We have already noted that the majority of them live in rural areas, and we know from empirical data that the rural areas host some of the poorest sections of the Zambian population. So it is not unsurprising to imagine that the youths are very poor. Thank you very much. Would you like to make a contribution? You're welcome this evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've seen the topic which is on a movie, whatever.
Yes, go ahead,
Hello?
sir. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. When you look at the general setup for our country, Zambia, when you talk of the young generation or the youth development, it cannot be attained because most of the people in governance and the other people, they are so much selfish. They have no love for the young people. They have no love to govern young people in a good way. So the best thing for the young people to develop, unless the older people they have that heart of love. If love is not there, then there's nothing which can take place in terms of development. Thank you. I end.
All right, that's an important contribution, but before you go, maybe I could take you up on that point. What then would you suggest? What then is, in your opinion, could work as a policy implementation to change the way in which you view things?
Yeah, that's a good thing. When you look at the counter regime, when you look at the counter regime, there were a lot of the so-called recreation clubs and other training centers, of which the young people were able to obtain what we call the right skills. Now, in nowadays, there's nothing like that. What we are just seeing on the Zambian youth centers, what is there is nothing. So this is the reason why you can't develop, because most of the young people are indulging themselves in beer drinking and other. They are not busy. So, and most of the politicians or the government leaders, they have no passion for them to take them to recreation centers. And in the counter regime, we have the so-called national centers where most of the youth were trained. And when you look at these politicians, the current politicians, most of those who were in the counter regime, they used to attend the skills from Zambia National Service. Now, nowadays, there's nothing. They're just flashing money in the cities and in rural areas. That's the development. Thank you. I end there.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for that contribution. I think the contribution touches upon the fact that there is need to create a platform that can develop the skills, competencies, and tap into the talents of the youths. So this is a very, very crucial contribution. Also to create a platform that kind of works in a way that makes use of the talents already embedded within the youth themselves through national service type programs. So thank you very much for that important contribution.
Thank you very much. Thank you. More time.
All right, so thank you very much for that contribution. We have another caller here. Hello?
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Thank you very much. Sorry, we just lost that caller. Please call 0764 250055 and have this conversation with us. We are happy to hear from you concerning what it is that you think could be done in order to harness youth for national development. How do we put in place systems and mechanisms that can make use of youth? So we have a policy platform that recognizes that youths are a demographic dividend that could be made use of. I'd like to invite you to call 0764250055 and participate in this program. Again, we are discussing the role of youth in national development. Hello? Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm okay. Calling you from Kafue, voice of Kafue.
Fantastic, sir. We're glad to have you this evening. What's your contribution?
Yeah, my contribution is one thing. I think the education setup. Yeah, education setup, especially senior education setup, say from grade 10 to 12. Yeah, it needs to be adjusted to match with the modern times that we are in. The way that curriculum is more of employee-oriented kind of education, and as such, deprives young ones when they complete grade 12. Always they rely on looking for employment amidst few industries. The previous caller alluded to the previous government of UNIP. When people completed senior education, they had opportunity just from graduation straight into employment. That gave them a footing, a step
opportunities for young ones. Young ones don't have money. They don't have capital. It's sad that there's much emphasis on emphasizing that young ones can start up business, but yet they don't have the financial abilities to go into various businesses. So there's need to create those deliberate opportunities for young ones to find room on which they can develop on opportunities. Yes, for me, it's the right education and opportunities for young ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that important contribution, sir. So, again, this relates to the kinds of education that we make available for young people, tailor them, modify them, adjust them according to the needs of society. Hello?
Hello, is this movie?
Yes, it is. You're welcome to today's program.
Yes. I wanted to contribute over the enhancing Zambian news for national development.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Where you calling us from?
I'm calling from Mundola. This is Brian Munduli.
All right, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I wanted to contribute was for the skills that you once talked of, or from the previous caller who called. I wanted to contribute on the skills because on the skills, on the financial status of this nation is not okay. When one, for example, finishes grade 12, when they want to apply for a certain skill, due to the economic status, people are failing to go for their provided skills. So as a result, people are not going, to do their skills. So at least if the economic or financial status was on a minimum position where anyone can afford to go and do this despite skill, I think we might have a possibility for going forward because we will have people who are skilled enough for them to add to the development of this country.
Okay. Sorry, just to clarify, are you suggesting that this is skills at the tertiary level?
Yes, on the tertiary level, that's what I'm talking of, because people are sometimes managing, and we have a lot of people who have finished schools in our communities and societies, but they're failing to go for colleges because of the higher amounts needed and financial needs for them to go for colleges and for their specified skills.
Okay. No, thank you very much for that important contribution. Again, this talks about equipping youth with the requisite skills to be effective participants of the labor market. So thank you very much for that important contribution. We'd like to invite more people to participate in this program. The number to call is 0764 250055. So just to pick up the previous caller, he talked about modifying and adapting the education sector, or indeed the curriculum, to be able to respond to the structural contradictions of the Zambian economy. I think this is an important contribution. We need to recognize the kinds of skills that are required and at what stage of national development we're at. So I would like to invite you once again to give us a call on 076 425 0055 as we discuss the topic, harnessing Zambian youth for national development. We pointed out that youth constituted a huge chunk of Zambian working age population. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good
Welcome.
evening, thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Welcome. Where are you calling us from?
It's speaking to Mr. Manjomba.
Go ahead, sir, with your contribution.
Yes, please. This is a very good program. Development skills is key to any national development. And for our economy to stabilize, we need to enhance on national GDP, and which will interpret into the gross national product. How do we attain that one? We can only attain that one if our productivity is high, which will in turn feed into our economy by exporting our local goods and services, which we are locally producing for export. we are to acquire the necessary skills for our youth, are we there?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, if we are to acquire necessary skills for our youth, then we need, like the previous speaker had said it, we need to frame our national curriculum into a manner that is going to be suitable and be in line with the productivity of our youth. We need to equip them with skills, relevant skills actually, that will be able to drive them away from our previous colonial masters' skills that were of white-collar jobs, and the kind of education that we acquired that was theoretical instead of practical. So we need to tailor our education system into the productivity situation where we are going to produce a lot of goods and services, but in turn, which is tailored to our own consumption and international consumption. But now, if we just have to have the international consumption arrangement, which is produced at high level with a lot of money, other than what is going to be produced by our local consumption, then we'll be missing it out. We need to produce more maize that we're going to consume ourselves. We need to produce a lot of soybeans that we're going to consume ourselves, and also the international market. So we need to have both market, the local market and the international market, and such goods and services should be tailored into such manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that important contribution. As I've pointed out, this is something, that is a common thread, which is around skills development. And I think we are fine-tuning our discussion and conversation here by pointing out the specific kinds of skills that are required in order to foster national development as we make use of youths as a demographic dividend. So there are recommendations that the curriculum presently is ill-suited for the kinds of skills that would like to impress upon our youth in order for them to be effective participants in the national development process. So that is one issue, I think, that has been dominant in the conversation this evening from the callers, which is around skills enhancement, modification of skills, and altering those skills in the curriculum so it can suit the requirements of Zambia's structural conditions. The number to call is 076-425-0055. My name is Dr. Gabriel Pollen from the Center for Trade Policy and Development as a senior researcher there, as well as the University of Zambia, Department of Economics. I would like to invite you to this conversation around harnessing youths for national development. What are your thoughts concerning what can be done? So far we've been talking about the supply side, youths as an input in the production process, an input as labor. Youths can contribute, but for them to effectively contribute, they need to be equipped with the correct skills that are required. So, and one of the key issues that we need to understand is that from a practical and empirical point of view, development means many things. We have a caller here. Hello?
Yes, back again, the voice from Kafue.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my other contribution is youth in the rural areas. As you alluded to that, they are on the higher percentage. The good part of youth in the rural parts of our country, they are not lazy. They are hardworking. And the best opportunity that they have for them is mainly in agriculture. I say so because I also have young ones who are in the rural areas, and I see them doing better in terms of agriculture. But the trouble then is lacking enough to produce or mechanism to help them to produce on a larger scale. That's the biggest challenge. Yet they have the ability to do whatever they can in agriculture. So if agriculture for rural youth, if that can be used as the main entry for them to be productive, it can be good. Enable them, or let's say empower them, say, to continue, for example, maybe they can do certain crops which at the end of the day they can earn cash from there. That would be the best beginning for rural youth. Most of rural youths in Zambia are very hardworking. They are not into these vices. Mainly those are in urban areas. But in rural youths, they are really preoccupied where it comes to agriculture. on a dry spell in terms of activity. So if they can be educated and helped to see when the rain season goes, what other agricultural ventures can they enter in so that they continue to have income, say, throughout the year.
Okay.
I think that would be a right way to help rural youths to contribute to national development. Thank you, Doc.
No, that's an important contribution, but just to, before you go, just to pick you up on that same point, you've talked about support to the rural areas. So obviously the government has put in place mechanisms through rural development, for example. What are some of the things that you think are working and are not working? What are some of the things that you think should be done at that level to be able to help those youths to become more productive in their cultural sense?
All right. I don't think the government has done much. I don't think the government has done much. If they have done, it's only a small percentage, so to speak. Most of those which have heard being pronounced much, which on the part of what they have done, is mostly on aqua agriculture, fish production, so to speak. But there are other youths right now who are struggling to access funds to venture into other agricultural projects. For example, I have one friend of mine who is based in Solwezi complained to me a few weeks ago that it's very difficult to access funds, no matter how good that person is in terms of his programs that he has outlined to venture into other aspects of agriculture. For example, animal husbandry in northwestern province. He is having difficulties just to have access to funds so that he continue with what he has programmed. So if they have done, I think it's on a very minimal level. They need to scale up so that they are felt that indeed they are helping the rural youth.
No, thank you very much for that important insight. Critical point there being raised is that it is crucial for youths to participate, and the only way they can participate is if they are helped with material and financial resources. So for the rural agricultural development, there's a requirement that access to credit be facilitated for them to be able to access finances that can help them buy the necessary inputs that they can then use to engage in the agricultural sector. The number to call is 076-425-0055. You are welcome to participate in this very interesting topic that affects everyone, harnessing Zambian youth for national development. So the only way that the rest of us are going to benefit as a country is to make use of youths. But how do we go about making use of youths? So the important contribution made here is about using youth in the cultural sector. So this is in itself an important insight, because what that does is that it enhances your production of food, which then is made available not just in rural areas but in urban areas as well. And if you have surplus, you could then export this food to neighboring countries and the international community in general. The number to call is 076-425-50055. My name is Dr. Gabriel Polland from Center for Trade Policy and Development and University of Zambia, Department of Economics. I would like to invite you to this very important discussion. So, whilst we wait for people to call, allow me to quote some crucial statistics in terms of employment distribution for the majority of our youths. It is shown through evidence from the surveys, through the Zambia Statistical Agency, that in terms of employment by industry, the majority of Zambian youths work in wholesale and retail trade. They also work in repair of motor vehicles and motorcycles, and agriculture, forestry, and fishing, 27.9% and 22% respectively. Most of the youths do not work in technical jobs. 34.2% work in services and sales. So in terms of the specific skills that the youths have, this reflects in the kinds of jobs that they have. So you have more youths working in less professional, less technical jobs, and more in the kinds of jobs that are low wage, to put it bluntly. So how can we make youth as a demographic dividend? how can we make use of them to ensure that, that we foster national development? So there's a strong contestation here and an argument that without fully utilizing our youth, it is impossible to maximize national development. It is impossible to maximize the process of economic growth. It is possible to grow. It is possible to achieve a certain degree of development without fully utilizing youth, but we cannot maximize. So if we are to effectively utilize our resources, the youth in this particular case, there is needs to ensure that full utilization of youth is promoted, because full utilization of youth will ensure that they tap into the required activities that will support wider growth and development for the country. So the only way that Zambia could attain some of its developmental objectives and spur industrial development and economic growth in general is to ensure that the youths find employment and occupation in the right kinds of activities. Now, another issue, obviously, that we've already pointed out is the fact that the institutional mechanism, the governance structures, are weak somewhat in the sense that they do not hold to account the commitments that have been set forth by the authorities in terms of the targets for youth employment, for example, or youth participation in economic activities. I invite you once again to participate in this conversation around harnessing Zambian youth for national development, confronting the structural and institutional barriers to their participation in economic growth and development. The number to call is 076 425 0055. So whilst we're waiting for people to call, I think this is related to the specific kinds of economic activities that underpin growth and development at different stages of capital's development. Now, industrialization means different things. Industrial growth and upgrading means different things at different stages of capital's development and different countries. For Zambia, industrial development might imply industrial activity in food processing, for example, industrial activity in textile, leather, and clothing. But these things have already been achieved and at a very advanced stage in more modern countries. So industrial development in the United States could imply things such as building of spacecrafts. For example, we have SpaceX in the United States of America by a famous billionaire Elon Musk. We have Tesla, for example, which has moved away from traditional vehicle manufacturing towards innovative electric vehicles. But what about Zambia? At our current stage of capitalist development, it's crucially impossible to be able to allocate resources efficiently and be innovative at a global scale. So what are the kinds of activities that we can achieve for Zambia that would enable the country to achieve the kind of development and growth that we envisage? The number to call is 076 425 0055. The topic of discussion is harnessing Zambian youths for national development. You are free to call, make the contribution, and would like to hear your thoughts and insights in terms of what your ideas are around what could be done from the point of view of policy, as well as the practical aspects in terms of the way in which policy plays out in practice. How do we go about implementing? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, please. Good evening.
It's Mr. Manjomba again, Jonathan Winunga.
Yes, please. Go ahead and give us more of your insights.
I also wish to quickly state that government is doing quite a lot in terms of agriculture support systems. Now, I'll cite some examples. Maybe we need to review and try to do some research on why is our support not working out well. Maybe because we've
the other farmers like fertilizer and soya beans. Now, when they receive that fertilizer, that soya beans, they do not have anywhere to take that fertilizer because they don't know the value into that. Then it's high value as well, but because they do not know where to sell it and the like, so they end up selling it raw as it is. Okay? Raw as it is, they will not even plant it and then sell it to other people because they do not know how much value is there. Now, we need maybe to also promote a lot of agricultural research centers where we are going to tap information from. We are going to find out which crop will give me a lot of money, which one is a high value crop. If I grew maybe 10 hectares of maize, how much money would I realize from there? If I grew 10 hectares of cashew nuts, how much money would I get from there? I think we need to do agriculture as a business. Mostly we've done agriculture just for the sake of saying, no, I'm an agriculturist, I have to find money to take my child to school. But then we need to do more. Even when government gives you maybe 5 bags of fertilizer, from that 5 bags of fertilizer, I should be realizing more in the next season. I should be weaned out by government so that I'm independent. I should not again depend on government because it will become so monotonous and government will be tired supporting the same farmer today, the same farmer tomorrow, the same farmer the other year. And now this population is also growing. So you find that even when government does 60%, the other year, because the population has grown, it will have come back to maybe 40%. All right? We will not realize that the money that government is giving out, they gave out 60% this year, next year they'll give out 80%, but it will seem as though it is 40% because of the growth of the population. So we need to find a way on how to educate these people so that they engage in crops that are really able to give them better life tomorrow, so that they do not keep on depending on government today, government tomorrow, and the like. So that is my contribution. Otherwise, it's a very good topic. We need to engage into these other programs, like maybe goats, like someone talked about. You cannot move with a goat from here 2 kilometers without the person asking about that goat. But how do we promote this business to make it viable? Okay? So that we buy fences, wire fences, we fence up, we do irrigation system, and then breeding system. So all those things must be put in place. People should start thinking about that. How will I keep goats on high value arrangement? Where am I going to sell these? There was, is it Arabia?
Saudi Arabia.
I heard goats have a little market somewhere. So we can still engage into such kind of businesses so that perhaps as a country we'll be able to promote our youth into that direction. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for that important contribution. So the contribution that has been made here is of substantial insight in the sense that we need to shift away from looking at agriculture necessarily for food provision and subsistence. There's another call here. Hello? Hello? Sorry, the call just got dropped. We need to move away from looking at agriculture for food production and subsistence. We need to think about agriculture in terms of its role as a business more general, how it can contribute more to national output and the value of national products. So some of the crucial points that have been raised by the previous caller were around extension services, agricultural research centers, establishing what are the high-value crops and products, and promote those in terms of provision of inputs such as fertilizers, and to investigate already why the existing systems and mechanisms around support to the agricultural sector are not producing the results that we want them to produce. We need to ensure that there's a holistic approach. So this is a crucial point, I think, that has been raised, to say that the majority of youths live in rural areas. In rural areas, the main economic activity is agriculture. So how do you enhance agricultural productivity in rural areas to ensure that you make better use of the youths? So we need to rethink the way we view the agricultural sector, what its role is to the economy, focusing mainly on making agriculture a business, which implies transcending the traditional role of agriculture as a way in which to provide food, but to think of it in terms of a business. And what the crucial point raised then is that agricultural diversification becomes crucial, moving away from the dominance and dependence on maize production, move towards more high-value products. So how do we equip our youth with the requisite knowledge, skills, and capacities in the agricultural sector to be able to engage in high-value crop production, for example, or pastoral farming, goat production, and so forth, for the export market? And bear in mind that these inputs are required for early stages of capitalist industrial development, because they then feed into things such as textiles, clothing, and leather production, as well as food processing. So to what extent can we tap into these synergies in the sectors that provide the employment maximizing potential for the Zambian youth? The number to call is 076-425-0055. You're welcome to participate in this very engaging and most important topic around harnessing youths, Zambian youth, for national development. What are your thoughts concerning what you think should be done at the national level, at the micro level, at the level of the household, to enhance the capacities of the youth to make them effective participants in national development? You're welcome to make this contribution, and thank you for joining me and listening to this program this evening. The number to call is 076-425-0055. My name is Dr. Gabriel Pollen from Economics Department, University of Zambia, hosted at the Center for Trade Policy and Development. I'm the senior researcher for public finance there. So we do undertake research of various levels and at various stages of the economy and in various sectors. So public finance obviously is concerned with the public authorities, the treasury, expenditure side of the government, and promoting youth for national development is a crucial topic. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. You're welcome. Sorry, we seem to have lost that caller as well. I would like to invite you to participate in this program. The topic of discussion is harnessing Zambian youth for national development. Please feel free to engage in this discussion and do give us a call. The number is showing on the screen, 076-425-0055. You are welcome to participate in this program. My name is Dr. Gabriel Pollen from the Center for Trade Policy and Development, senior researcher for public finance. I'm an economist, work also at the University of Zambia Department of Economics. I'm a lecturer there. I would like to encourage you to make your contributions and make your voice heard so we can better appreciate what your thoughts are the process of national development. The topic of discussion is harnessing Zambian youth for national development. Some of the crucial points that we've raised out are around what sort of agricultural activities, what sort of economic activities are youths primarily engaged in? Hello? Hello? Yes, please. Go ahead.
Good evening, Doc.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your call. What's your contribution?
Thank you. This is the Jambo from Sorezi.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so the contribution that I want to add on this platform is that the level for unemployment in Zambia is normally caused by the effort that the government is putting in. The period at which the government comes in is only when there is a time for elections, and then they tend to forget the youth when they are in power. So I think the government should collaborate too much when they are in power, not only when they are in.
We seem to have lost that caller. I think there's an important contribution there, and the contribution, I think, if I got him correct, is that there is need for the government to support youths throughout their tenure of office to ensure that youths are effective participants in national development processes. the caller alluded to the fact that the level of unemployment is determined mainly by public policy, public development policy, and how the government puts resources, allocates resources in place to be able to address some of the contradictions prevalent in the country. We have less than 10 minutes to go. If you'd like to join in this program, the number is on the screen, 0764 250055. The topic of discussion is harnessing Zambian youths for national development. The focus has been around confronting structural and institutional barriers. And you are welcome to participate. 0764250055. The issue around agricultural development and productivity enhancement has been concerned with diversification of agricultural produce, moving away from the traditional dependence on maize production and moving towards some products that will be essential in terms of raising returns for youth engaged in agricultural production. A key point raised was provision of extension services and financial support to the youths, as well as input provision. So these things are already being done. We cannot run away from the fact that these things are already being done. But the caller alluded to the fact that we need to investigate why the support systems are not producing the requisite results that will be required for developmental progress for Zambia in the way that we all envisage. There has been concern that industrial development will support agricultural productivity as well. There's need, for example, to put up a fertilizer plant, and the fertilizer plant in and of itself would lessen the amount of foreign exchange that goes towards importation of fertilizers. So but then this also will enhance the kinds of employment and economic activities that are prevalent in the country that would support the developmental objectives of the country. So I'll probably take in one or two callers, I think, before we call it a wrap. We have 5 minutes to go. The number to call is on the screen, 076-425-0055. Please give us a call. We'd like to hear what your thoughts are concerning your views around harnessing youth. I think we have 5 minutes to go. I'm just going to wrap it up by pointing out the fact that when we started the program, we pointed out that Zambia, maybe one last call. Hello? Would you like to make a contribution? Hello. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Is it this program?
This is an unscripted program on Movie TV, sponsored by the Center for Trade Policy and Development, and we are discussing topic of harnessing youths for national development.
Yes, that is. But I'm watching it now. But it's like what he's saying, and the person answering me is a different person. But I just want to make a contribution.
Go ahead, sir, please.
What is there is my contribution is that I feel the programs for the youth must focus on empowerment or capacity instead of the handouts.
All right.
I'm wondering, because I'm seeing this Dr. Somebody on the screen, the number that I've phoned. And
yes, sir.
Is it the correct program, I wonder?
Yes, it is the correct program. My name is Dr. Gabriel Pollen from the Center for Trade Policy and Development, as well as the University of Zambia, and we're talking about harnessing Zambian youth for national development. Your contribution has been around the focus on empowerment and capacity building of youth.
That is what I'm saying. Our programs in this country are sort of maybe promoting laziness for young people. I want to congratulate you coming up with this initiative and such program. But then the thing is that our programs must focus on capacity building so that the young people can engage in productive activities instead of being given handouts. And then you find that the programs are not using anything. Or maybe I don't know whether it's correct. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. That's an important contribution, and I think the last caller wraps up today's program. I would like to thank you very much for joining me today. As we wrap up, I'm just going to give a quick conclusion in terms of what we've discussed today. The topic of discussion has been around harnessing Zambian youth for national development, considering youth as a labor reserve as well as an input in the production process. So to what end then can we make use of that? We know from Zambia that Zambia has a young population. So thank you very much for having me today. Looking forward to continue this discussion on different platforms. I'm Dr. Gabriel Paulin. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.